There's a video going around of a guy, presumably in the army, wearing his like uniform, and he's singing some song, and then it flashes, and he's a drag queen.
Oh god.
And it's like there's more than one of this, but I'm like, that should be immediate dishonorable discharge.
Yeah, I agree.
I think so too. I've seen that video. I don't like it.
There's a couple of them, but there's one right now. And the reason I say this, or I would even accept administrative discharge, because it's our enemies look at they look at our culture, our country, to determine whether or not they think we are strong or weak. And if we appear weak, we will be attacked even if we are strong.
Oh yeah.
There's not much weaker than a fella in a dress.
No. They let a master sergeant wear bondage gear in his army photo.
Right, yeah.
I saw that. It's a puppy face, right?
It's not about any, and it is about looking weak internationally and putting our other men and women at risk. The message we should be giving off is that, like that Russian military commercial where the guy's like shaved head jumps out of a plane, lands in the ice, and he's got a gun. We want to terrify. That's why people wear skull masks. They want to be terrifying and invoke death.
Right.
Because then you minimize the likelihood of conflict, the more you intimidate and people. But if what we are seeing in our culture in the army, in the armed forces, is a bunch of effeminate men twerking and trying to be, like women, then our enemies are going to be like, if there ever was a time to destroy America, it's now.
Yeah.
Yeah. If there's ever a time to compare America to the great Satan, it's right now.
Just weakness.
Yeah.
You can call it whatever you want, Satan or otherwise. Morality is not the question. The question is this guy you remember the mountain from Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Is it the mountain?
He just had a second baby, just so everyone knows.
This guy, how tall was he? Like 6'7"?
100 feet tall.
6'8".
Like 6'8", like
7'1".
307'1"?
I don't know. I'll look it up.
But how much did he weigh? Like 300 something pounds of muscle?
Yeah. It's crazy. That's scary.
It all stems from our nation's breakdown and really alienation from Christ and Christianity, because that's what our nation was supposed to have been rooted in. And you had a bunch of people come in and tear everything down, and it's unfortunately eroded into our military.
It's Christians' fault.
I agree with you. 100%. Because pacifists.
Christian, who was saying this? It was Patrick Bet-David.
He's 6'9". He's 400 pounds.
400.
Which seems crazy. He did just have a second baby. Wow. That's why he's on.
Patrick Bet-David brought this up. It's the tolerant Christians who kept allowing these evil people to keep doing more and more and more, and just sat back and let it happen.
Yeah. I agree.
It's like the whole like the adage of like the Republicans being the brakes on the Democrat Party, which is just the truth. It's just Christian liberalism allowing people to do what they want and saying, "Oh, well, turn to the cheek, turn to the cheek, turn to the cheek." If you do that too much, eventually,
I love that. Seamus, I think Seamus has mentioned it, where it's like the left will say, "But as a Christian, you should be doing this," and then his response is, "As someone who hates Christians, I'm not going to take your word on Christianity."
Yeah.
Yeah. True.
Yeah,
it's horrible. They're trying to kill you guys. Like my dad's Colombian. My dad immigrated here illegally, and they're trying to kill you guys. You guys built the best empire in history, and it's a nation that thrived and did so well and was feared on the world stage. And now it's become this laughingstock that gives billions out to anyone who provokes their neighbor into a war. And they're trying to kill you guys for being white Christian men. It's unreal. And we've got to reinforce God back in our society, back in our schools. We cannot have our textbooks permeated by any type of propaganda that's foreign. We need Christ back in the schools. And I'm saying that as a Messianic Jew.
American values.
Yeah.
Founding fathers.
I think there are a lot of American values.
And I think liberties.
A lot of our day-to-day culture doesn't reinforce American values generally. Like we can talk about the history books and we can talk about Hollywood or whatever else, but I also think day-to-day people don't live lives that are reflective of American values. There are some people who do, but I think, being openly patriotic, being there for community, doing things to serve those around you, protecting your family. There are some enclaves of American culture that live that way, but a lot of predominant centers of American populations don't have that at the core. And that's sad.
I don't want to call out this company, so I'm asking, everybody who's here just not to name the company, but we recently bought a bunch of products from one company just as on a whim. And this company, which produces a variety of meats and meat snacks, writes their mission of inclusivity and a diverse, healthy snack. And I'm just like, what about dried meat is diverse and inclusive? This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's very stupid.
And so I don't want to, again, directly name the company because I'll let them do their thing. We won't buy from them ever again. Whatever, no beef. It's just... It's become it's a cult.
Yeah.
Where it's like we're making a series of neckties, but our neckties are inclusive. How? Anybody can wear them.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I didn't know that before.
That's
I
right.
didn't know that literally anyone could buy this tie and put it on.
Well, now
Thank
you
you
do.
for saying it directly.
I've actually been thinking recently I need a necktie.
Oh, there you go. Our
know.
our inclusive neckties.
I better
are
buy the
available in-
inclusive one
That's
so that
right.
I'm
Yeah.
not called.
They're diverse as well.
Yeah, I need a diverse,
Right.
inclusive
because
necktie.
because white people, black people, Mexican people, and Asians, they can all wear them.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
I'm worried about that.
Right. We actually tested them to make sure.
Can women also wear these
Yes.
neckties? Okay.
I need a scientific study and a written certification from the company because
Yep.
I just can't take your word for it. Both of you are bigoted.
Let's
So
make sure
just
that
like
they put it on the
these-
package.
these companies
Maybe
are-
the tie should just say.
Are writing like our our product is to ensure a diverse and inclusive meat snack, and it's like, huh?
That also sounds creepy. That starts to sound like right on the edge of cannibalism. I don't really like it.
What kind of meat are
I
you
really
talking
want
about?
to only know a specific. I don't want diverse. I want specifically
Yeah.
one type of meat. I want you to label it on the package.
How did that type of thinking introduce itself into our country? Where did it come from? Who introduced
Well,
it?
I think you don't know this. The history of beef jerky is that only racist white men eat it, and so we need to find a way to make it accessible to urban liberals.
Right.
Well, the left are, default liberals is what Breitbart called them. I believe what he called them, because they don't actually they don't seek out information. They just hear it and they adhere to it. So I want to do a game show, and we should totally do this. Not even kidding. And it's political trivia, but the contestants are going to be like two people from the left and two people from the right. Two self-identified liberals, two self-identified conservatives, and then we ask questions.
That'd be cool.
I'm not saying I know exactly how it would turn out and who would tend to be right or whatever,
You know.
but I think the right would tend to have, because the right argues all the time about various political issues. What is described as the right in the culture war includes libertarians who are going to start quoting a whole bunch of like anarchist philosophers, like real ones, not the left weirdos. And people on the left are going to be like, huh?
Yeah.
You get someone who's like a liberal activist, and you put them up against a conservative activist, and you ask about modern politics. What was the name of the private military contractor who died in a plane crash, who was deeply involved in the Ukraine war?
Prigozhin.
Well,
Prigozhin.
Yeah, we
And
all know
and
Prigozhin.
what's going to happen is a conservative is going to say that right away, like, what? Yeah, and the liberal's
Yeah.
going to be like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
What is the name of the prosecutor fired in Ukraine after Joe Biden flew to the country
I know this
and
one.
threatened to withhold $1 billion?
Oh, I know the name.
Victor Shokin.
Choking.
Choking.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's right.
wow.
Yeah.
Look at that. I'm willing to bet you bring you have a liberal and a conservative commentator, and the liberal's going to be like, what? What are we even talking about?
They're making TikToks.
Well, it's the new it's the
true,
new
yeah.
liberals would not get any of this stuff. My grandma was a liberal and she paid attention to everything.
And then you'd say, like, what, if we get specific on well-regulated, referred to a type of armed individual that went by this name,
Militia?
regulars.
Oh, regulars.
It's in
I
the
think
name.
this is a great game show. I think we should start.
I think so too.
immediately.
I really want to play.
Also hijacked by Pop Culture Crisis today and said that we should start a game show where we find Brett a wife and turn it into the dating game.
I got one for you.
So
Fun
we're just
too.
the whole company. We're just turning into
It's like fact-
we are the
I-
new game show network.
I got one for you.
I love it.
I got one I think maybe I'm not so sure anyone would be able to answer.
Okay.
On his famous ride, Paul Revere historically declared what?
The regular
The British are coming?
The regulars
Trans
are coming.
men are real men.
Why would Paul Revere say the British are coming when they were all British?
Yeah, right.
And the country was split between loyalists and
Insurrectionists.
patriots.
Wonder why they changed that in the textbooks, or why that's what everyone.
It was just a poem. It wasn't
The British are coming.
Yeah.
It's like the cops showing up. The Americans are here. It's like just cops.
Yeah, right.
Hey, the regulars are coming, which were effectively like the law enforcement of the day.
The
So
poem made it
Yeah, because
propaganda.
it was Longfellow.
it's I don't know that
the
is
lead propagandist in American culture. I'm
Wow.
just kidding.
it is commonly believed that he said the British are coming, but my readings of academia, and Serge got this too.
I've heard this before too.
Yeah, that he said the regulars are coming. It's apocryphal that he said. Is it apocryphal the right word? I think so.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was art.
It's also like
Yep.
for Americans, like 200 years later, they're just like, well, you just meant the British, so like we'll just write it in. And I'm sure
There's so
that
many
just
cool
took over.
stories in the American Revolution.
Yeah,
it's
it's
crazy.
I
wild,
agree.
man.
One
Those
if by
people were
land, two if by
crusaders.
sea.
Those were
Yeah.
crusaders. Those were young men who were actually impassioned on being patriots for their country, and many of them believed in Christ, and many of them were willing to lay down their lives for the values
Oh,
that they
dude,
saw.
doing a religion trivia one with like a liberal and a conservative.
Wait, as Ian the host. Then I'm with it. If
Whenever I
Ian's
go
hosting, I'm there.
whenever I go up to Boston, which I'm going to be doing again for Thanksgiving, because
That's a tradition.
it's our tradition. Me and my brother and my son, and this year my brother's girlfriend is coming. We go out for dinner for Thanksgiving. This is our 3rd year of this tradition, and we have the best time. But anyway, on the way up, I always stop at Lexington and Concord for the shot heard around the world and to see where Nathaniel Hawthorne lived in the old manse. And I love it. I love Hawthorne, but I love Lexington and Concord. I love like just being there in this space. And it's such a small area. It's a little bridge.
This was my favorite thing about growing up in New England, which is that when you study American Revolutionary history, which you do for every year until they have to make you study other things, you get the best field trips because everything is within driving distance, and you can say like, "Oh, this happened here," and every small town has some kind of connection to it. Yeah. I mean, I feel bad for the rest of you. I know Texas teaches its own history, but it was one of the best parts of where I grew up because the American Revolutionary War is such a present and real part of that region of the country.
Well, did you have this like because I grew up in the South Shore of Boston, and most of the history we learned was Revolutionary War history. And then when I moved to Philadelphia, like all the history was about, after the revolution, and it was about the creating of the Constitution. I feel like American regional history is such a cool thing.
Yeah, we don't appreciate American regionalism enough. I mean, This is the thing that I think we lose. Again, not that you should not be informed of what's going on in the world, but I love that Texas teaches its own history. I know, some students in West Virginia do some courses in West Virginia history. There are all kinds of regional influences. Like even if you talk about
and West Virginia has so much Civil War history.
Right,
it's really
right. If you talk about like how Minneapolis, St. Paul came to be, a lot of that is because of the Scandinavian immigration that happened there. America has such an interesting regional history that unfortunately I feel like local governments, local school systems do not put enough of an emphasis on.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry that.
You're right.
It is sort of a crime against ourselves. It's not going to necessarily solve peace in the Middle East, but it would be nice to remember our heritage and know about all of these things that made us who we are.
I mean, the massive protest that we saw in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, over the weekend, which is it went up Fifth Avenue.
Bay Ridge,
Brooklyn.
Isn't that a Jewish area?
Well, it's an immigrant neighborhood, and it's a very Arab neighborhood, and there's a lot of Jews in the neighborhood, and there's Jews all around it. Flatbush, Borough Park.
That's where that famous bagel place is.
There's a lot of good bagel places in Bay Ridge.
A famous one. I'm not going to. I don't want to shout them out because I don't. Because
you don't like them.
No, because I don't want someone to throw a brick through their window.
Oh, that's fair. But there's a lot of good bagel places in the neighborhood. You can always get a good bagel. Bay Ridge is this great neighborhood. I moved there years and years ago, and Bay Ridge has always been an immigrant neighborhood. So there were Norwegians there. There were Norwegians there because they were building the Verrazano Bridge. That was primarily Norwegian.
Oh, yeah.
There were Greeks that came in. There were Italians that came in. There were Chinese. There's not any Indians, and you can tell because there's no good Indian food in the neighborhood at all. But there's Central Americans, Mexicans, Arabs.
You live there, right?
I lived there for a long time. I don't live there now. I moved. But it was a great neighborhood, a ton of great food, lots of Jewish people, lots of Arab people, lots of Teslas. It's like there's a lot of wealth in the neighborhood
part of
as
our
well,
cultural export.
right? Yeah. But I found it so surprising. And I'd seen pro-Palestinian protests there in the neighborhood before, but it was always much smaller. And this was a huge, massive protest, and seeing the police blocking off streets. And one of the streets that I saw police in videos blocking off was a street where one of my old friends lives, and he's Israeli, and his whole family lives there. And I'm just like imagining him and his family and their kids like seeing this, and they're Jewish. And I'm just like seeing this happen. And I was like, I don't like that. I don't like that they feel like their neighborhood is under siege, that there's helicopters going on. And the thing about it being Bay Ridge is that this is just this classic old immigrant neighborhood. And I feel like if the people in that neighborhood, if the schools were better at teaching Brooklyn history, if the schools were better at, if the city was better appreciating itself, then those kids would all know, like, oh, this is not just an Arab neighborhood. This is a classic immigrant neighborhood. And when we move on, there's going to be a different group of immigrants that's going to move in here. And it's just, that's sort of how Bay Ridge goes. Like, it belongs to nobody. It belongs to everybody. It's just a constant like.
Well, it's a New York neighborhood. It belongs
It's a very
to
New York neighborhood. Yeah.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.